Good morning. It is Monday, October 20th, 2014. This is your morning edition on I-24 News. Coming up later today, U.S.-led coalition fighter jets struck ISIS targets at least 6 times in the Syrian town of Kobani in what appears to be the strongest fighting for days. Aid agencies across the world criticized the World Health Organization for missing the extent of the Ebola virus and its danger. And later on the show, Apple and Facebook will pay female employees to freeze their eggs. Good morning, I'm Yael Avi, and we begin with our main topic of the day. The fiercest and most powerful fighting in days shook Kobani overnight as Islamic State fighters attacked Kurdish defenders with mortars and car bombs. Now, this comes 2 days after reports about the Islamic State taking its first steps towards building an air force, apparently, by training pilots to fly captured fighter jets in Syria. We are first going to delve into this by taking a look at the following report and then speak to somebody on the border.
U.S. President Barack Obama and Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan pledged Sunday to work closely together to strengthen cooperation against the IS. The U.S. had previously urged the country to take action against the terrorist group on its border with Syria. The announcement comes just 1 day after U.S. airstrikes targeting IS fighters rocked the Syrian town of Kobani as 3 blasts hit the city center. A huge plume of smoke rose over the area in the aftermath of the strikes, visible to onlookers from bordering Turkey. Kurdish and Free Syrian Army forces were reportedly fanning out across the city, probing for IS soldiers. Ahead of the airstrikes, the Pentagon had made its intentions for Syria and Iraq clear.
We believe, and it's hard to give an exact number, but we believe that we have killed several hundred ISIL fighters, again, in and around Kobani.
At the same time in Iraq, members of the newly elected parliament approved new defense and interior ministers, completing a unity government with the aim of battling the spread of the IS. The group controls large parts of Iraq and has been making gains despite U.S.-led coalition airstrikes. The coalition has been bombing IS targets in Iraq since August and extended the campaign to Syria in September. But NATO member Turkey has been reluctant to intervene militarily against IS militants, calling instead on the U.S. to work towards supporting Syrian rebels looking to topple President Bashar al-Assad. The fate of Kobani, which has suffered most of the recent airstrikes, is now seen as an important test for Obama in his ongoing campaign against the IS.
And we are joined from southern Turkey, the town of Seliofra, by Middle East Bureau Chief for Russia Today, Paula Steer. Paula, good morning, and thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Well, first of all these very conflicting reports, but what appears to be now the headlines around the world is that the Islamic State organization is trying to create its own airport. I don't know if you're hearing anything like that on the ground, but we're hearing that planes have been captured supposedly near the town of Aleppo in Syria by IS fighters. They're trying to create an airport, but mostly it's the fighting that's been going on near where you're at near where you're at. That's the Turkey-Syrian border. Anything evident in terms of that, is the fighting heard on the Turkish border?
Well, there is a lookout point, if one can call it that, which is the closest one can get in terms of where the Turkish army is allowing both journalists and both people who are on the Turkish side of the border. It's just a few kilometers from the Syrian border town of Kobani.
Right.
Now, I spent most of yesterday there, and most of the day was calm, although it was punctuated with these airstrikes. As you mentioned, we think that there were in the region of 5 to 6 airstrikes. Now, it's still difficult to determine whether ISIS is retreating or advancing inside that town. I have access only to refugees and fighters who have come over the border to this side. And according to their estimates, they say that the Islamic State controls around 20% of the town. I was talking to a commander who said that the battles are street battles. Sometimes they're just 5 meters from each other, and they're literally moving from house to house, from street to street. The sense I get on the ground here, but then again, I'm only talking to Kurds, is that they are on the offensive and that ISIS is being forced to retreat. You made the point about them training pilots for captured aircraft. I did talk to some people. You have here refugees who come both from Kobani, and they are Kurds. You also have a lot of Syrian Arabs who come from the town of Aleppo. And I interviewed one of them, which is where the reports were emanating from. And I don't really have much more information than what you mentioned, that we are receiving these reports. There's no confirmation in terms of people actually eyewitnesses on the ground seeing it, but rather rumors that are circulating. So I haven't been able to independently verify those.
Exactly, and this is my question to you, because you're the closest that one can get to Kobani, albeit obviously from the Turkish side. But it seems, and if we're listening also to to the Pentagon statement, Kirby, they're saying we believe hundreds of IS fighters have been killed. There's all this rumor and supposition. Is there any way to even realize or quantify how much damage has been done to the Islamic State fighters?
It's really difficult. I mean, I'll give you another rumor that's circulating here, and it's been circulating for several days, and that is that the Turkish border controls are actually allowing ISIS fighters to come across into Turkey and receive medical treatment at hospitals here. Now, I've been wanting to go and verify that, but it's almost impossible because there are pockets of Turkey itself where there are sympathizers towards ISIS, and we've been repeatedly warned that it is dangerous. And it's not as if people are openly going to say, well, yes, there are ISIS fighters being treated in this hospital. And of course, that is something that the Turkish government is going to vehemently deny. Another rumor that keeps circulating, I don't know if it's a rumor as much as it is the feeling on the ground, but where I am, the Turkish army is in control, so you cannot go closer to Kobani. And the Kurds here say that they believe it is because the Turkish army is turning a blind eye to any kind of arms coming across the border or any kind of fighters being smuggled into Kobani. Again, there's no way to verify this, but an interesting point is that there are other Syrian border towns and villages that are in the hands of ISIS and that are on the border with Turkey, and there's no Turkish army patrolling there. So that is one of the people here are putting forward, is why isn't the Turkish army there controlling and trying to deal with stopping the spread of ISIS into Turkey, but it's only dealing with it in Kobani. And the Kurds are telling me that they feel it's because they actually, instead of stopping ISIS coming into Turkey, they're trying to stop the Kurds going across into Kobani and helping people there. But again, you raise a very important point. There are no journalists inside Kobani. We have managed to talk to people coming across the border. We've obtained video footage where people have been filming and handing it to us. But obviously, there's the delay in real time, and it's one perspective of the story. We don't have independent verification of what is actually happening in Kobani, largely because journalists are actually being prevented from going there, assuming that they want to in the first place.
Yeah, no, Paula Sleer, very rightfully so. And first of all, do keep safe. We'll be probably touching base with you once again over the course of this week as the fighting in Kobani still rages on. Once again, you are in Sathis in southern Turkey on the border there. Paula Sleer, thank you very much for joining us this morning. On to our next topic that unfortunately seems to stay in the headlines. If anything, it's spreading in the headlines, and that is the Ebola virus. And it seems like the world entered a new phase dealing with the deadly virus, namely the inevitable blame and recrimination game of how many signs went unnoticed and how the world didn't prepare itself in wake of the West African tragedy. So, first of all, let's take a look at the following report to see what is the latest when it comes to Ebola and break it down from there.
Across the world, concerned countries are preparing for the worst. Screening for the deadly virus began Saturday in French airports, following the lead of the US and Britain to check if air travelers arriving from Ebola-hit regions are showing potential signs of the disease. Israel, too, is preparing with special screenings in the airport and exercises simulating the arrival of an infected person. In the US, an epidemic of fear has been spreading. Once the disease crossed America's threshold when a man from Liberia died from Ebola in a Dallas hospital, and 2 nurses who treated the patient contracted the disease, it appears that fears infect faster than the virus. In an attempt to avoid hysteria over Ebola, US President Barack Obama played down the idea of travel bans from Ebola-ravaged countries in West Africa.
It's a serious disease, but we can't give in to hysteria or fear. Trying to seal off an entire region of the world, if that were even possible, could actually make the situation worse.
Still, a plane in which one of the infected nurses flew is now being disinfected, and schools in Ohio and Texas closed their doors because some students or staff shared an airplane with a nurse. Another Ebola scare was reported from the Pentagon after a woman who recently traveled to Africa vomited after getting off a bus headed to a high-level Marine Corps ceremony. However, the spread of the virus is also generating some unexpected collaborations. Cuba's former leader Fidel Castro said the island nation would gladly work with the U.S. to fight the outbreak, while U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry and China's top diplomat, State Councillor Yang Jiechi, stressed the need to manage differences and cooperate against threats, including Ebola. Thus far, the virus has killed some 4,546 people since an outbreak of the hemorrhagic fever began earlier this year. Efforts to contain fear might become increasingly difficult as, by the beginning of December, the World Health Organization expects between 5,000 and 10,000 new cases reported each week.
Now, joining us from London is the Oxfam policy lead for the Ebola crisis, Debbie Hillier. Good morning to you, Debbie.
Good morning.
Well, first of all, thank you for joining us. As we said, there is a lot of finger-pointing going on right now in terms of how are all these signs missed. What is the criticism towards the World Health Organization, or in that respect towards the Western world, of missing all these signs and missing all these signs that were clearly evident coming out of West Africa?
Well, I think this is a tricky situation. It's clear that we, the international community as a whole, need to learn lessons from this crisis.
Right.
It's worth saying that there is no international mechanism to respond to health epidemics. The World Health Organization, the WHO, is a technical agency, and it relies on the capacity of national health systems. But in West Africa, in those three countries, rather, of West Africa, there are very few doctors. Ebola was a new disease. It had never been in these countries before. So, and the health systems simply didn't have the capacity to cope. So what we need to learn from this is that there are ways of dealing with epidemics. It's worth saying that Senegal and Nigeria are also involved in this epidemic, but the crisis has essentially finished in those countries. Also, countries like DRC and Uganda also are familiar with Ebola. And these three countries, it was new, and there are many, many more reasons around this. But what we need to do now is learn lessons in the future. But now we must focus not on a blame game, but on dealing with the tragedy in West Africa, which is heartbreaking and heart-wrenching.
No, completely agreed upon. It's not the blame game, but one would think, when there are about approximately nearly 5,000 people dead from Ebola in West Africa, that people would take notice. There's also the situation right now that seems to be, that Ebola is becoming such an issue because it reached the Western world. Isn't that the case? Albeit just, very few cases, but we seem to be speaking about that not because of West Africa, rather because there are some cases in Germany, the United States, and Spain.
I think there is a lot of panic. And so in some ways that's understandable. Again, you're right that there is too much effort on very few number of cases in the West, and there needs to be much more effort on those where, as you said, it is rampant. And this really is an unprecedented situation in West Africa, and we really do need a huge international focus. But that must be on providing support for those who have it in West Africa. So what actually the international community needs to do is to focus on providing for that crisis in West Africa. So what is needed is money, but also people. And Oxfam is taking the very unusual stance of saying, actually, what we need is the military to come and help in West Africa. We're saying that actually the military are those who have very capable logistics systems, who are capable of responding extremely quickly, and that's absolutely what's needed now.
Yeah, I was about to ask, so why is the military necessary? Is that because people are, because of the lack of knowledge when it comes to Ebola and how to treat it, because when people have fever they have to be quarantined? Why the military?
What we need is for new treatment centres to be built in the affected countries. So the UN has said that 70% of people who have Ebola need to be in treatment centres, and we have thousands and thousands of cases in the countries. So what we need to do is build new treatment centres to treat these people, to isolate them, to stop the infection spreading. And the military are the ones who are able to sort of mobilise these resources incredibly quickly. So that's the only reasons that we're looking for military involvement here. We also need medical personnel. Because there's no point building these treatment centres if there's no medical personnel to work inside them. So people are really, really needed in this crisis, as well as money.
No, definitely, as well as money, and that's when it comes to West Africa. Debbie Hillier, thank you so much for joining us from the Oxfam Policy lead for the Ebola crisis. We are also joined in studio by Safi Cheskeli, Foreign Affairs editor and Channel 2. Thank you so much for being with me. I just want to ask you something about this latest crisis, as I tried to put the question to the Oxfam policy leader, who, of course, you know, is under obligation not to say certain things. But at the end of the day, Ebola is not something new.
No, it is decades old.
Exactly. And so, I mean, we all seem to be freaking out because, and I'm sorry to say this again, because a few white people have Ebola now,
yes,
no?
But had it not been for that white people, these white people contracting the Ebola virus in the West, none of these investments would have been made in the production of the vaccine, in the production of the ZMapp mysterious drug,
right.
In sending those 4,000 American troops to Liberia to build these treatment centers.
And to build a treatment center, some may argue even that now, just because Ebola has been in Africa for several years, has been contained, as we see a terrible outbreak now, but that, you know, that there was no investment in finding a cure for it. I mean, am I, you know, too high bar to say that there was no investment to find a cure for it because it was only based in Africa?
And it was very expensive to build one. I mean, producing these monoclonal antibodies on tobacco leaves is kind of science fiction coming into reality. It's very expensive. There are almost no production facilities like that one in Kentucky of the tobacco leaves in other places of the world. And I should say that we have two relatively positive news these days, or this morning. One is that the Spanish nurse is improving. She's almost Ebola-free, and the other one is that the vaccine production, the Canadian-British vaccine, is being tried in a very rapid way, which might prove it useful by the end of the year.
Which vaccine was that? Sorry, the trial vaccine that's being used right now, not the one that was used on the patient in Texas.
No, the patient in Texas, they used a serum with antibodies from surviving Ebola patients,
right.
And the ZMapp is the drug for post-contraction. We're talking about the Canadian-British vaccine ahead, which can be used in the future in vast
right.
African populations.
Because that's the main problem with Ebola. I think once you've contracted it, yes. And unless it's diagnosed immediately, then that's where the danger lies.
Yes, and it's 21 days which you can carry the virus and not produce
symptoms or
yes.
anything like that. But still, you know, and you are well, you're contagious, I think, only once the virus is broken out. But as you rightfully pointed out, it's our interview with Oxfam leader in the UK. It's the West African situation that is the most pressing, in which the world needs to basically mobilize towards. And we'll be moving on to our next topic. The Hong Kong protest is still making headlines as Hong Kong police clash for the second night with protesters in what seems to be the deepening feeling of impasse between the government and the pro-democracy movement. The umbrella demonstration, I believe it's called. Still with us in studio is Channel 2 Foreign Affairs editor Asaf Yechezkeli. Asaf, you're still here. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
Before we delve into this one, let's take a look at the following report.
The violence in Hong Kong refuses to calm down as thousands of protesters again flooded streets and occupied areas in the Mong Kong district. The results, at least 20 injured people in clashes with the police.
The occupied area in Mong Kong remains a very high-risk area. Activists from radical organizations, as well as troublemakers, are mingling with other protesters.
The escalations in the protests come despite the Hong Kong government announcement that it is ready to negotiate with the student demonstrators on Tuesday. However, officials from Beijing said they will not reserve their decision to vet candidates for the territory's 2017 elections for chief executive of Hong Kong. This controversial decision appears to limit democracy in the Chinese-ruled former British colony and spark the current outrage.
I shan't use the word crackdown. You know, the police have been put in a rather impossible position. They have an impossible job to do, maintaining law and order in the neighborhoods that are being affected.
The police arrested 26 protesters on Saturday night, but thousands remain seated in tents spread around the city. Some see it as the awakening of a pro-democracy movement, which is finally taking on the communist regime. But the questions surrounding the chances of bringing real change remain unanswered, and thousands continue to occupy the streets of Hong Kong under their umbrellas.
Well, for a recap also of what's happening right now, joining us from Hong Kong is Wall Street Journal reporter Isabella Steger. Isabella, good morning to you.
Hi.
Hey. Well, first of all, what's the situation right now? And this seems to be, you know, it's the demonstration or the protest that's not going away, but was fairly peaceful till the last couple of days, wasn't it? Before this latest.
Yeah, actually, Yeah, last night I was out, and it actually calmed down, I think, to many people's surprise. The movement seems to have an ability to sort of self-correct when it sort of reaches a point of very high tension. And as we said, Friday and Saturday was quite violent. A lot of people with bloodied heads and limbs taken to the hospital. Police also saw injuries on their side. Last night, I think a lot of people wanted to urge calm because of the talks that are going to take place tomorrow on Tuesday here in Hong Kong.
And what is expected for tomorrow?
I don't think anyone expects anything particularly concrete or fruitful in terms of next steps of political reform. You know, this is a long game that students are playing. But I think most people are in agreement that it's important to have these talks, at least just to try and diffuse the tension that has been building up. And, you know, that it's the first step, you know, sort of in a way to resolve this crisis.
Now, when it comes to the demands of the students, of the people in the streets, you know, it seems like they're not really putting any type of ultimatum. What are they saying? That they're going to stay indefinitely and trickle in and trickle out? I mean, it's to us in, you know, in other parts of the world, and one wonders, you know, what is the demand, or just they're saying they're going to stay in the street?
It's very tricky for the student leaders who are actually the ones who will be negotiating with the government. I mean, they have said that they won't settle for anything less than a full universal suffrage, which is the ability for people to choose the candidates and to vote for them, not candidates that are chosen by Beijing and then people get to vote for them. Although increasingly, I think a lot of the people in the streets also feel that the students do not necessarily represent them. So it's a leadership challenge for the students. You know, different people want different things, I think, but at the moment, the only people who are really able to participate in these talks are the student leaders of this university group. And, I mean, the government has reiterated also many times that they actually cannot renege on the decision, on Beijing's decision to, you know, allow full democracy. So I don't think that that's one thing that they'll be able to compromise on. But there's other things, issues as well, like the makeup of the voting committee, for example, that they may be able to discuss.
Okay. Isabella Seger, thank you so much for joining us from Hong Kong this morning. Asafi Chazkeli, Foreign Affairs Editor for Israeli Channel 2. It seems like, you know, both sides, well, I think, you know, on the Hong Kong part, that the students are in the streets and being very, very, I mean, the umbrella protest, the umbrella revolution seems to be one of the more laid-back ones that I've seen thus far, except for the last 2 days. But will China ever capitulate? Can it capitulate? It's not going to give up Hong Kong, is it?
First, I must tell you that 2 weeks ago, I was quite terrified ahead of the Chinese National Day that this affair will be spread into like a Tiananmen style saga or clampdown. Right. And I'm happy to see that these are relatively quiet protests today. China will not capitulate. And we should believe 2 days from now there's supposed to be new negotiations, televised negotiations between the two sides. And when the negotiations are televised, you can never expect any good things to come out of this, because good negotiations are not done.
Should not be televised. Anything
good
should not be televised. Yes.
Okay. The student leaders will probably be very with good rhetorics and very upbeat that the leaders of Hong Kong, the governor, will be meeting with them directly. Actually, it's the most academic protest I've ever seen. I have a friend in Hong Kong I talked to yesterday. He's a mathematician from Macedonia, how cosmopolitan, and he's one of those academics in the street. It's not students, it's PhDs and doctorates and postdoctorates. Yes. Yes, they will be speaking with the governor.
First of all, there's a very non-violent people. That's the one thing.
Yes, and they clean after themselves, and they, of course, giving those roses and flowers to the policemen. And I must say, this has also become very small scale. I mean, on Causeway Bay, on Admiralty Centre, and the Mong Kok area, not far from the very lovely promenade Jim Sa-Chui, it's very small. It still looks very photogenic, with all the tents and with all in the evenings they wave their cellular phones and they use these untraceable applications on their smartphones to convey messages to each other. But when it comes to good negotiations, there will be none. They will say they want universal suffrage, they will say they want free democracy, they will say no vetting on our leaders in the elections coming 3 years from now, and the governor will say we have a problem, you are part of the People's Republic of China, special administrative region as well, but part of the People's Republic of China, and I can't see any.
But as
good
part
out
of the
it.
People's Republic of China, wasn't that, as you said, always a deal that 3 years from now, in 2017, that Hong Kong actually, I don't want to say breaks, it essentially sort of breaks free and gets an autonomy, and that's what they're expecting.
Well, financially speaking, China is not. They have Shanghai. They have the new financial hubs. They need less of Hong Kong than they needed it before. So, for their support, for their cause, they can just prove less supportive of the Hong Kong protest, and they can become more harsh on them. And the more we go in the future, the less we see China thinking about the West. Actually, Governor Leung said yesterday to the protesters, you are motivated by international affairs and by foreign leaders. And they say, no, we are Hong Kongers. We want our own democracy. And he says, well, when China blames other people that they are influenced by foreigners, it's not a good sign.
Because that opens the door to also using more, more powerful mechanisms in terms of stopping the protesters that on the national level, which
is President Xi is yet to be proactive and seen and talking about the situation.
Meaning what? He's yet to sort of state his opinion?
Yes, he has kept very silent on recent months, putting all the work on the local government and Governor Leung. We expect him to talk in the future.
To talk in the future and see and to the people of Hong Kong. But I mean, China ultimately, what I'm trying to culminate here is looking to basically give the right of voting to the Hong Kong people, but also actually, though, they're the ones who are going to pick the candidates, right? It's just the candidates have to be vetted by China.
Central bureaucrat, Politburo, if you wish.
Yeah, the Politburo, if you wish. No, very rightfully, and very rightfully so put. Asafi Cheskeli of Channel 2, thank you so much for being with us and helping us sort through these very confusing news items this morning. But when we come back, the winds from the Vatican haven't really changed. After all, Catholic bishops failed to back a more open stance by the Vatican on matters such as homosexuality and divorce. A week ago we thought they would accept, be slightly more considerate towards them, of course, this week. And yesterday, everything turns around. We'll tell you all about it when we get back. First, though, let's hear some more of this morning headlines. Thank you for staying with us. I-24 News Morning Edition, October 20th, Monday. Yes, it's Monday. Depressing thought that is. It's not as depressing because Tony Grant's here.
Yeah,
I try to mix it up.
Some people love Mondays.
Really?
Yeah,
Who?
New moon on Monday.
Do you like Mondays, Ruthie?
Duran.
I love Mondays.
I don't know.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm completely the minority here?
Mondays are good.
Well, because I work Sundays. Mondays.
Okay. Ruthie Sinai, I-24 News editor, and Tony Grant with the news you missed.
Lovely day of the week. Well, this
Yes.
one, you may not have missed this if you were traveling in Israel at the airport at Ben Gurion yesterday, as was I actually. Israel was to test all arrivals from Africa for Ebola. So.
You arrived yesterday, right?
I did. And,
Not from Africa.
What?
Not from Africa.
No, although when they asked me, have you been in Africa, I was like, aren't I in Africa now? They're like,
I
go.
think I've just
They're
arrived.
Like, leave us alone. Go, leave.
So wait, did they stick a thermometer in your mouth?
Oh, no. I mean, I saw one in the distance, and I was like, listen, I was in Cyprus. It's an island. We're okay. But have you been in Africa in the past
so it's only
10 months or something or whatever? I said, I don't think so. So it was a nice conversation.
No, because my mother had something similar. She arrived a few days ago from Italy, and actually somebody asked her how she was doing. She said, such nice people at the airport.
Yeah,
they're so
very
concerned
polite.
about me.
Yeah, they're very polite, very cordial. So let's see how
Ebola now
efficacious
tested also
it is.
in this airport in the Israeli
It's like
airport.
testing light, It's sort of like, where have you been lately?
Light testing.
Yeah.
In the States, it's slightly more.
I think so.
I mean, think they sort of like they strap you. I'm kidding.
Yeah, not to make light of the situation.
Not to make fun of the situation at all.
At all. The Telegraph reports on this story was reported yesterday. Kobani, this is like a Syrian Kurdish rebel leader saying the town will become a cemetery for ISIL. They're using that acronym and headline.
Right.
And this is just this is before the news broke about the American arms drop.
No, very much so. Apparently news this morning, very big news this morning, that Americans are dropping arms on Kobani from the air to assist the Kurdish fighters. We spoke to somebody in the southeastern border, to Polisli, actually on the southeastern border of Turkey a short while ago. But yes, the fact that arms are being dropped from the air.
And in this account, they talk about actually the impact of some of the previous airstrikes, sort of flattening tanks and that sort of thing.
Yeah, that could be dangerous.
That could be dangerous. But to me, it's very bizarre is that the fact that it's been going on for like now at least 2 weeks,
couple of
3 weeks
now, yeah.
Right, the Kobani battle, and the fact that we've reached a point where guns are ammunition's being dropped from the air. I don't know. I mean, to me, this spells somebody coming out at a certain point, and I'm theorizing, saying we're going to have to send troops to the ground. That's just not working. But who knows?
Well, if the Kurds were willing to, sort of hand the stuff over the border, there'd be no problem. You would need to drop it on people's heads.
You're talking about the Turks, if they're
the Turks to the Kurds,
exactly.
Yes, a lot of logistical, political issues yet to be resolved.
Yet to be resolved in this operation.
In the meantime, not to underestimate the other elements of the situation. They're dramatic. The Times of London reports that a British hostage's sister is pleading for ISIS captors to get in touch. We're talking about the sister of John Cantley, who was the British photojournalist who's being held hostage in Syria, abducted nearly 2 years ago, but there was a news blackout that kept his captivity secret until more recently.
There have been 3 videos of this guy already published.
Really?
Yeah.
IS has published.
As well as the videos of him.
Yeah. So again, that's something that they still have this
very much so
crisis on their hands.
And hopefully we're not going to see any more videos of him.
Yeah, and just you think that it's we talk about Kobani and the tide hopefully turning, but again, this is a situation still very much in play. As
very much and in flux, and nobody really understands why this is. I think Ruthie, you mentioned it once, but it's the entire Western world mobilizing smart bombs, air, attacks from the air, whatnot.
Piecemeal, you could say.
And
significantly, but piecemeal.
But it's not working, and it's not working. So
anyway, on another British newspaper of record, The Guardian talks about what's some buzz in Sweden. Sweden has been searching for a suspected Russian submarine off the coast of Stockholm. And who knew that that Sweden...
Are the Russians looking to invade Sweden?
Apparently, according to a report in Svenska Dagbladet, which is,
which you read diligently.
I read daily. Yes.
Of course.
Of course, for all my Swedish news.
Yes, along with the with the smorgasbord of the morning.
Serious newspaper. They say that a Russian submarine may have had mechanical problems while on a secret mission in the Stockholm region. Lord knows why.
I was about to say.
But Sweden has a lot of little islands off in the Baltic there, and it's easy for a submarine to kind of operate by stealth to do whatever it wants to do. And so that's really been the buzz of Stockholm.
Was it the buzz of trying to steal IKEA secrets? What are we looking for here in Sweden?
I don't know.
Such a loving little country.
ABBA contracts. I don't know.
Exactly.
But
there's supposed to be a tour. You know that.
An ABBA tour?
An ABBA tour, yeah. So I know that.
With set designed by IKEA.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm so not there.
Okay. Horrible people here.
Abattoir and abattoir. Okay.
Abattoir and abattoir. Yeah,
Here's a crazy one from the Daily Mail reports about one British teacher's bid to make students sing Kim Jong-un patriotic songs. This is a very expensive private school in the UK. And there's a teacher there, Leslie Larcombe, who's a member of the British Communist Party, and she's trying to get a school sort of syllabus together that would have her students learning some of these popular songs, such as the Song of Mechanization and the Ode to Bean Paste.
And the Ode to Bean Paste. As I say, the parents who pay money, good money, are okay with that?
Not necessarily, because in the meantime, the school has refused to comment, and the teacher is on holiday in Ibiza. So,
I thought she was on holiday in Pyongyang.
I know, that's very, I have to say the holiday in Ibiza is something that communists of the 30s would never do.
It would never do, but this is 2014, baby,
that's
so
true. 2014,
you can be a commie and hit the dance floor. Speaking of British, it's been revealed that London is actually considered to be now the new divorce capital of the world. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Even there.
Goodbye, Reno.
Divorce capital of the world.
Yeah.
Wait, people are getting more divorced, or they come to London to get divorced?
Actually coming to London to get divorced because of favorable, how shall I say, legal...
money awards and
sort of
alimony.
asset splitting 50-50, favoring the less wealthy spouse. And there was a recent high-profile case, big businessman Khoo Kay Peng, worth at least $820 million, and former Malaysian beauty queen Pauline Chai. It was agreed that their case could be heard in London, even though apparently neither is British. Or something to that effect.
Yeah, how very bizarre.
Wealthy Chinese, Russians, Americans, and Europeans are flocking to London to basically call it all off.
To call it all off.
Yeah.
Well, I'm moving to London.
Yeah. So it's interesting stuff.
Yeah, bizarre. They're getting money from it. Yes.
One person who has a lot of experience getting divorced from a British guy, it's Madonna. And of course, they're a buzz in London because Madonna apparently will be appearing on the X Factor show. And this is kind of big news.
Very non-Madonna-ish.
Non-Madonna-ish, yeah. And I think Madonna watchers, and I'm not one, are thinking, why would she actually sort of, I don't know, say go to that level, because, okay, there you say.
Yeah, I'll say go to that level. Well, clearly she doesn't need to.
She doesn't need to, but she actually, this is not until December 13th, so she has plenty of time to change her mind.
Great, good to hear that. But I think if you're Madonna, and you don't really, like, you don't need it, but you might just be, I'm bored.
Yeah.
It's a Kabbalah sort of thing.
It's a Kabbalah thing.
Yeah, perhaps maybe she'll be all dressed in white. But she has an album coming out around that time, too, so it could be a good push for that. Yeah.
Okay, well, so, I'm completely, I'm disappointed in her, but that's just
I am, too, but
anyway. I just said it this morning.
But more screen time for Madge.
Darling, thank you for that. You will be, of course, joining us next hour. Stick around for the next very interesting topic. There we go. On to our next topic. At the end of a 2-week synod, bishops failed to approve the language in the final report saying people with homosexual tendencies must be welcomed with respect and delicacy. Yes, we are talking about the Vatican, and the latest synod being, the groups of bishops getting together and trying to begin the very slow process of changing the church's doctrine. And of course, the delicate language was not received well. To hear more about it, of course, we're joined in studio by I24 News senior news editor, Hoti Sinai. Hoti, good morning to you. Morning. And before we break it down, let's take a look at the following report.
He is considered one of the most beloved leaders of the Catholic Church of all time. But even Pope Francis couldn't defeat the Almighty Church on the issues of homosexuality and divorce. An extraordinary synod on the family ended Saturday without a consensus among the bishops regarding these two burning issues.
The Pope asked that this be made available to people to show the degree of maturity that's taken place and that which still needs to take place as a discussion document over the next year.
Last week, the Vatican published a historic document that welcomed homosexuality and said gays have qualities and gifts to offer. Pope Francis made an enormous effort to resolve the subject in an open summit. More than 200 bishops took part in the exceptional synod, perhaps the first in modern times to tackle these issues. And at the end, 62 bishops opposed the final report, and 118 voted in favor, short of the two-thirds majority needed. Pope Francis, who attended the beatification of Pope Paul VI Sunday, found it hard to conceal his disappointment.
On this day of the beatification of Pope Paul VI, I think of the words with which he established the Synod of Bishops. By carefully surveying the signs of the times, we are making every effort to adapt ways and methods to the growing needs of our time and the changing conditions of society.
Even without reaching the required majority to approve a final document, an open discussion on what was once considered a taboo shows huge progress in the Holy See. But when a new approach clashes with the old church, some values are apparently holier than the Pope.
Joined from Florence, Italy, by editor of L'Osservatore Romano, Mary Nolan. Mary, good morning to you. Well, that was
Good
fast.
Morning.
Yeah, I said that was fast. The change of heart. What's behind that? Because, there's a moment there about a week and a half ago we were all thinking, oh, my Lord, How very progressive. And bang. What's the idea behind changing even the delicate language so quickly?
Well, I think they're just trying to reach a consensus so that all the bishops in, every country, and obviously, as you know, every context, feels like they're heard in the synod, which, again, this is something that hasn't finished. It's not even a document that needs to be voted on right now. It's a working document that they're all going to look at and reflect over for the next year, because the real synod is in 2015.
Okay.
When they'll actually publish proposals to the Pope. So it's been a success. I mean, as dramatic as it seems, everyone's been heard. The fact that I would say the Pope is disappointed. I think he's quite happy, actually. I know it's been very difficult, and I think there's been a lot of emotion shown over the last 2 weeks. Right. But the Pope has expressed in other contexts that he thinks that this is going in a positive direction.
Because the issues are just being discussed. Is that the point?
Yes, and they're sharing. I mean, people are sharing, and the point of the synod is also that the fathers' ideas changed throughout the 2 weeks. That's one reason why they weren't publishing a lot of content during the synod, was so that these bishops and these lay people that had come together were able to speak their mind and not be restricted to what they had prepared, a week in advance or, 3 months in advance by thoughts that they had then. They wanted them to be changed and be able to grow over the next year, in fact.
Interesting. Mary Nolan, thank you for joining us from Florence, Italy, where I wish I would be right now. Ruthie Sinai, senior news editor. As I said, I mean, is the fact that they're discussing it already huge? But I mean, to me, this shows that, and I'm asking you that, once there's a slight move towards progress, and of course there's a discussion, immediately there's no, we can't even touch this.
Well, listen, I knew you'd be disappointed. So I went to look at the numbers.
Right.
And the numbers are actually incredibly
optimistic?
Encouraging. Yes.
Oh, okay.
You've got 118 who voted in favor of this document, so it's short of the 2/3 majority needed, but only 60-some voted against. The 60-some, you'd be surprised to know where many of them hail from. I mean, you may not be surprised.
Where?
Africa.
Ah.
Where homosexuality is really culturally unacceptable. I mean, it's a punishable.
It's a punishment by death.
By death,
times, right.
In many African countries, and that's actually a trend that's just going and getting stronger and stronger. In recent months, we've seen laws,
terrible
promulgated.
And
in
you know what's interesting
countries.
about that? Because Africa is a fairly new Catholic continent. It's the Catholic.
The
20th century was where
Well, the missionaries, 19th.
So to them, they're still maybe. And I'm asking you, we're theorizing, they're still stuck in this old doctrine of Catholic?
Could be. But in any case, I think, as Mary said, and as everybody has been quick to point out now, the hopes were high, it's true, with this interim document that came out. But nonetheless, it is a work in the making. Look, in any case, whatever is decided, they're going to meet again at the beginning of 2016, and that will be really the ultimate word on it for at least this time, because, if this Pope lasts, hopefully, he's going to go at it again. I don't think he's going to give up.
Yeah.
But I think what's interesting is that the very fact that it was discussed, and the very fact what they're saying, in fact, is we're not going to change church doctrine, but we are going to show our more welcoming, our more nurturing, our more forgiving side of things. We're still there's one. Have we got a second? Or
not really.
There was a cardinal who said, like Christ with the adulteress, his response is to welcome her, but then he tells her not to sin again.
Okay. Welcome, but don't do it again. Ruthie Sinai, thank you for being with us. First, we'll go to the news, and when we get back, tell you a little bit inside information about Facebook. Stay with us. Welcome back. It is still Monday, October 20th, 2014. This is still the morning edition. I am still Yael Levi, a very tired one who can't seem to wake up on this Monday. It's Monday.
It is Monday, and that's cause enough to wake up. I mean, and listen, how would you feel if your iPhone caught fire and set your clothes on into flames? Would that wake you up?
That would be an
incredibly
exciting moment. But this is Tony Grant with the spiral viral that is everything that's spiraling in a viral way there out on the web.
Like blowing up iPhones.
Yeah. Why would my iPhone blow up?
Well, yours wouldn't because it's too old.
No.
Like me. It's an.
No, not the 6, it's the 5.
It's a 5. Oh.
It's a 5. I know.
Well,
I'm getting there.
Welcome to 2012. Okay.
I know. God. Ouch.
Anyway.
Yes.
Now are you up?
I'm up. I'm completely up.
All right,
iPhone's catching fire.
Yeah, well, allegedly. We talked about Bendgate, which was this story going around the internet of an iPhone 6 sort of being susceptible to bending. Well, now some guy out in Tucson says that his iPhone 6 bent when he got out of a cab and actually caught on fire. So, and there's a picture of sort of a iPhone 6 looking physically compromised.
Ben's catches fire in pants pocket.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you don't
Was
want
there
that
a match in there? Oh my Lord.
No. Apparently, maybe could it be a design defect? I mean, we don't know.
We don't know. But the man says he now has second-degree burns. Why does this, to me, sound like a tiny little bit of a ploy to get some money out of Apple? Come on.
It may be, but it may not be because Apple didn't immediately comment. So perhaps they're
interesting. And where are the second-degree burns if it was?
They're photos, but not safe for work. Okay.
Which we cannot show you in this early hour in the morning.
Yeah,
yes.
No, we cannot. But moving on to other scandals, there was actually a calamity averted apparently the other day at the Whitney Museum of American Art in New York, where Jeff Koons' retrospective is on show. We love Jeff Koons.
We love Jeff Koons. We love the Whitney.
We love the Whitney.
We love the Whitney. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, some guy loved it so much he started spray painting all over the not on the art, but getting very close to it. I guess it was. Sort of street art, but in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Clearly. Yeah. That's like walking out like to graffiti this Van Gogh for a second.
Yeah, yes. It's not a good thing.
I think this is missing a little sunflower. Okay.
So fortunately, they caught it in time and arrested the
perpetrator,
the art stalker. But actually, there's a big art flap controversy in Paris right now, which you might not think of being as a home to a lot of modern art.
There's the Koons calamity.
Yeah. So interesting purple heart there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, okay. What does this say to you? This to me is a huge Cadbury.
Exactly.
Isn't it?
We look at that art and we're thinking chocolate.
Yeah. Okay. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
But moving on. This tree exhibition in Paris, the Place Vendôme, was causing some controversy because of its origins and the fact that someone deflated it. France 24, which is a great news source, ran this headline about the controversy involving it looks basically like an overstuffed Christmas tree or a sex toy, depending on your point of view.
Really?
Yeah. It's called Tree. And yesterday or the day before, somebody actually, it was like an inflatable sculpture and someone actually deflated it. And this was causing some controversy because some people were saying that was the right thing to do because it was so offensive. But you had the cultural minister of France saying that it was basically an attack on the principle of artistic freedom.
Do we have a picture of this? I'm asking.
But
we don't seem to have a picture of this.
We'll come back to it because in the meantime, we have a Florida scandal. See
okay.
$1 million home in Florida was built on the wrong lot. And I saw this picked up in newspapers around the world.
Stop. $1 million home was built on the wrong lot.
Yes.
Of somebody who can't afford $1 million home?
Well, they can afford it, but an official said, there's no big oak tree on the corner or something so that you would know that that's the right lot, so a mistake was bound to happen. So now they don't know if they need to kind of pick up the house and move it over to the lot next door or just sort of go with the flow, which is sort of what
Florida.
Yeah.
It's the place that just keeps on giving.
Yeah.
In many ways.
It's a melting pot.
It's a healthy plot.
Yeah. Donald Trump lives there.
But wouldn't they, like, at a certain point throughout the building of that house, like the owner would come over? You'd think he'd come over and go.
Think just check it.
Yeah.
Like,
no.
Wasn't the view of the ocean and not the driveway or something like that?
Thank you.
Yeah.
It wasn't IHOPs that I was looking to look at from my window, but yes.
IHOP.
Yeah.
Breakfast
Monday.
Yeah.
Yes.
So let's see if that gets resolved. And
Florida.
Anyway, so I don't know if we can go back to Paris for a quick second.
Let's go back to Paris for a quick second.
Yeah, Paris. So that's where the the Place Vendôme is where the Ritz Hotel is.
Yes, I do.
So it's a very, very...
Not that they ever stayed.
Well,
you stayed at the Ritz?
I stayed once, yes, so many moons ago.
So little I know about you.
Yeah, I was writing a guidebook, actually, to Paris. Long time ago.
Okay, yes.
So it was work. And
yes.
so it's a very upscale area, and it's a very conservative in terms of the architecture, the style. So just to even put a sculpture that looks like that in the middle of it is controversial. Now,
what is that?
Well, when it stands upright, it looks like a Christmas tree, or according to the U.S. artist Paul McCarthy, it's also sort of an inside joke. Somebody attacked him on the street saying it was offensive. But the French are defending it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
come on. Come on.
You know, Christmas can't come too early. Some quarters.
That's not. Yeah, okay. What does that look like to you? I'm not going to put you on the.
It's called tree.
It's called tree, and it
green.
looks like a tree. And dare I say, and I'm saying this on the air, it has a little bit. It has some phallic, tendencies.
Well, this is the city that gave us the Eiffel Tower. So you could say that it's just
everything is phallic there. But come on.
I mean, there's the Ritz Hotel right next to it. So imagine having a view of that.
But the tree is much bigger because size does matter.
In some circumstances, apparently yes. So anyway, someone deflated it.
Someone deflated.
Yeah, so it's no longer standing.
I do that all the time, just saying.
I don't know. France always keeps it interesting.
They do.
Yeah.
I think all the French people should move to Florida. Yes. And moving on.
Absolutely. You've heard about the Belfie.
Yes.
Okay, so this now British talk show host may have carried it too far because she posted a picture of herself in a provocative garb ahead of an interview with Lady Gaga. And it's very high profile, and it sort of begs the question, should serious journalists be, should they be
let me swallow first.
dressing in such a manner, does it detract from the seriousness of their work? I don't know. But I think maybe it's discreet, but do you go to an interview with the world's top pop star, Belfieing yourself? I don't know.
Belfieing yourself, it's like, listen, there is something to this that it's tongue-in-cheek. I can assure you, honey.
It's hashtag cheeky on Twitter.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It is.
It is.
I can assure you, I will never take a Belfie like that.
Yeah. Nor will I. I don't even know how.
I'm not even going to go there.
And she says it's a tie-in to the new album Cheek to Cheek with Tony Bennett and Lady Gaga, that she's just trying to dovetail with that. I don't know.
She did get the headlines, but it begs the question of that's a very good
who
point.
keeps it classier? Jude Law.
Jude Law keeps it classier. He's got 17 million kids. Go ahead.
He's on to his fifth, but he was. They're still talking about England with 23-year-old Catherine Harding. So she's pregnant, and he's.
He's not.
He's 41, and he was photographed on the set of a new movie he's working on called Genius, Smoking, and so we're happy about that.
Oh yes, I'm happy. Smoke along, honey.
Yeah. So I didn't know he had four.
Yes.
Several. He sires many.
He sires many children.
Yes.
I'm glad he brought this because I saw the fifth one. I'm like, come on, keep the tree hidden. Let's put it that way. Okay.
Well, I think when
I brought it all together.
You did.
Keep the tree hidden. Tony, stick with us because the next item is very, very important to me. Okay. Here we go. Now, this is a news item that actually came out late last week, and I think had every single woman slightly upset. Apple, apparently, sorry, was it Apple? No. Yes, Apple apparently has offered female employees to freeze their eggs so they can have children later in life and focus on their career at this stage. If that does not make you angry, I don't know what else. Well, you probably should be a woman to get angry about that. Now, before we have a long discussion on, the fact that they dared actually offer that, let's take a look at Gabi Tartakovsky's piece about the story.
Corporate America has done it again, offering employee benefits of bewildering extremes. Starting January, Apple will join Facebook in paying its female staff members up to $20,000 for freezing and storing their eggs. Of course, this medical procedure is expensive and questionable to begin with, but was reportedly requested by some Facebook employees who wish to continue in pursuing their lucrative careers without sacrificing the prospects of raising a family. Freezing eggs usually costs up to $10,000, not including annual storage fees. Women forced to go through various medical treatments which pose a threat to their fertility also find themselves undergoing this procedure. The success rate for freezing eggs is at best 50%. Even so, until now it was up to the women themselves to decide whether they should go for it. as opposed to being lured to take action by their employers. Some doctors believe this initiative might signal an important breakthrough in public discourse.
Reproduction should not be a taboo topic. Women should embrace it and address it openly and get the best information. For me, it's all about educating patients. They have to make the ultimate choice themselves. But if financial barriers limit their choices, it's a good thing to knock those down. I think it's a very positive move on behalf of these corporate giants, and I hope others follow.
But others simply believe that women's bodies are nobody's business but their own.
I don't really think it's anyone's business what a female employee wants to do with their eggs, and I don't really think it's any company's business to tell them that they should put off having a family in favor of a career.
Critics point to the fact that sperm freezing has been proved to be much more efficient, yet no male employee has been offered a walk to storage tanks. Mark Zuckerberg and his male colleagues are still free from the dilemma which haunts their female counterparts. As tech giants struggle to find a solution, perhaps it is best to leave the matter to that tiresome Facebook status and claim it's complicated.
We're joined by Karen Kirsch, I-24 News editor and also a female matters aficionado. I'm so upset right now, I don't even know where to begin. First of all, let's start by this. Other than the doctor, they're talking about that this should be a discussion point within society. It's not just. I mean, I think what comes from this is the fact that this is even being raised. Shouldn't it be a discussion that it just raised the question that when we go on maternity leave, we basically put a dent in our career. That's what these companies are saying.
That's what they're saying.
Yeah.
That's what they're saying very, very clearly. They're saying we have a problem with women, with retaining women, and they have a problem with retaining women. Both these companies and other high-tech companies.
Apple and Facebook.
But many others also have perhaps like 30% of the workforce is women, probably less.
Right.
And they abandon work at some point, and they abandon it altogether.
Depending on the length of the
of course.
Yeah.
No, the U.S. has a problem. The U.S. does not have a maternity leave. These two companies actually do offer these kind of things, but if you
they have a month-long maternity leave or something to that effect.
Yeah, and you can get a little bit more, but the question is how will you be looked upon? And if
you're encouraged to have children, but then you're encouraged to go back to work, but then you're encouraged to stay at home with your kids.
It's a very big dilemma, and when you look at these sort of work benefits as social indicators. To where the workforce is going, to what employees want, what this kind of industry is looking after. It's very complicated. I think it should be paternity leave and not
or joint. Why should first of all?
No, I mean paternity and maternity. It should go to making the workforce more accessible to parents.
Yes.
And not to defer.
That's exactly my question. Because what this says is, if you have children.
You can't work, or you can't give us
100%
what you want, we want from you. And one of the things that sort of in the comments about this action, one of the things that has come up the strongest is that this is actually an attempt to squeeze out of women the most that you can while you can.
Before we go off and reproduce.
Because we go off and reproduce, and then we won't be able to use you anyway. So we should, extend the time, because usually the time that women quit is the time when they become, most experienced, most efficient. It's the time when males start progressing to higher.
It's an interesting point where I think there was research. Well, that's a known fact, and Tony, you'll also know this from the States, that women, in our 30s, I think everybody, women and men in our 30s, we sort of come into our own. We come into our own when it comes to knowledge, career-wise. That's when we give the big push. That's where women also usually tend to have children in this day and age, as well as men. But men are regarded in the workforce when they have children as more responsible, as people to be promoted because they have children that they have to support. So clearly they'll be more intent to give more. But
of course,
women,
this is a very, very, very complicated kind of work benefit.
Yes.
Because imagine a 24-year-old or a 25-year-old right out of college who's they're offering her this. She thinks it's a really good idea. It's an invasive procedure.
It's a horrific procedure.
And its percentages are, not good at best.
Yeah, and supposedly it also hurts your productive organs, or it can, or
It's a dangerous procedure, and you don't know how successful it is, and it kind of supposedly gives you a better choice in the future when it's a gamble anyway.
Yeah.
And women should know that it's a gamble.
Sadly, all the time we have Karen Kish, a very interesting and incredibly troubling story. Of course, again, yes, I believe it should be a woman's choice whether to freeze her eggs or not. There, I've said it. When we get back, sports and culture, something completely different. Before anything else, though, the headlines. Good morning. Thank you for joining us. Staying with us, I-24 News, October 20th, Monday, the morning edition, where I am joined. It was a moment of honesty there, right?
I wonder if it's because of Monday or because of me.
Well, you'll keep on guessing.
Yes.
Joined by Jonathan Regev, I-24 News sports magazine anchor Ronnie Stav, just amazing culture culture correspondent and blonde. I said that. I can say that as a woman, right?
Of course,
But we'll start-
every time.
Every single time.
I love it.
Yeah,
That's all you should say about me, Ronnie Stav
Ronnie
blonde.
Stav, a blonde.
Yes, that's how you should present me from now on.
And I think we should actually be, fair employers and say, and Jonathan Regev, also a blonde.
Former blonde.
Former blonde?
Yeah.
You're losing it a little bit.
Yeah. Getting old,
That's not what we're talking about
okay.
here.
Yeah. I'm still fine if
Listen,
I'm a former blonde. You would get. I'm allowed to join the group.
absolutely.
Right.
You're still in it.
Absolutely.
You're still, I can see that in your. Yes.
Sigh of relief.
You can still sit with us.
You're here to speak about sports, honey. What about sports?
What about sports? So, football, as we know, is thriving in many places. One place where it's not been so big so far, believe it or not, is India. Over 1 billion residents.
Really?
India, if we take aside the craziness for cricket,
I was about to say, yeah.
other than cricket, is not that big in sports, especially not football, as surprising as it may
cricket
sound.
being the ultimate, I think, colonial sport.
Exactly.
Right.
Wherever there were Brits, there's cricket.
Yes.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
India, Pakistan, Australia, New Zealand. But football has not been so big in India until now. Now it's finally changing with the new Indian Super League. As there's big money attracting big stars and big names like Robert Pires, like Nicola Anelka, like Alessandro Del Piero. Very big names are in India. We'll speak about all that in a little while. But first, let's see the story.
Let's take a look.
Football sometimes thrives in places least expected. The first Super League in India began on October 12th and goes until December 20th. This championship will showcase 8 teams with many football legends in their squad. The competition appears like an American league as it goes just over 2 months and concludes with playoffs. Each franchise has an owner who recruits their players according to a specific criteria. The teams have their marquee players from abroad as well as local star players. The goal of the championship is meant to revive football in this sleeping giant.
I know there's been leagues before, but I think it's a great opportunity to go out there and to highlight it in terms of the publicity, the media exposure it's going to have. All we've got to do, and I say all we've got to do, we've got to try and go out there and deliver the goods and play good football.
There are 97 foreign stars on display this year, featuring 2 former Juventus players, Alejandro Del Piero, who plays for Delhi Dynamos, and David Trezeguet, who plays for Pune City. 2 former Arsenal players such as Robert Pires, plays for FC Goa, and Freddie Ljungberg, who plays for Atletico Mumbai. Marco Materazzi and Nicola Anelka are 2 other marquee players in the league.
Incredible atmosphere. So now I'm in India and I know the people, they love so much football. So it's very good for us.
The season opened on October 12th with a victory by Atletico Kolkata against Atletico Mumbai. Kolkata won 3-0 and took the top of the league. Ljungberg got injured and Anelka was suspended due to his gesture, which proved problematic for Mumbai.
For a fantastic startup for ISL, I hope that it motivates all the youth. We are looking for the youth of India to participate in football. And thank you, Calcutta, again. It has been a fantastic start to the Indian Super League. And let's football.
The Indian League attracts many players by offering them a high salary. Robert Pires will receive 594,000 euros for playing in the league. These amounts should not make the players envious of Europe or the MLS. This is a great effort for a country that is currently only 158th in the FIFA rankings. The Indian National Championship has been in existence since 1996, but the Indian Super League intends to revolutionize football in the country. The international media are even starting to take notice as Eurosport purchased the rights to broadcast the tournament, and India will not stop there.
It will make it more popular. It is also a popular launching pad for the youngsters, mixing up with the top international stars, which will help the league grow as well as the players grow, and hope we can qualify for the 2026 World Cup.
The Indian Football Association hopes to take over the more popular sports in India like hockey and cricket. It will now bring India on the world stage of football.
So joined by Jonathan Regg of I-24 News Sports Magazine anchor. Why now? Why take the switch in India now to try and boost up the,
the answer is money. Someone with a lot of money and passion for football has decided to bring the big players and put India high there. Now, India has a huge potential with 1.25 billion in population. You can raise so many big stars, and the only thing is you have to bring foreign talent to play with the local talent, raise them a bit, and
to raise the ability.
Exactly.
Are they bringing also coaches? Is it just players or also coaches?
At the moment, it's just players, but it will happen with coaches. Same with China, for example. It started with players. Then we've seen Italian coaches like Marcello Lippi, for example, doing the trip to China. If this Indian Super League, if it will grow bigger, then obviously the coaches will come, because where there's money, you'll see the big players. We see Anelka there, Ljungberg there, Pires there. They came because there's big money that they couldn't get a good contract in Europe or in the US, in the MLS, so they get it in
This is essentially
India.
one Indian guy who loves football and just wakes up one day and decides, I want to make this one of the leading sports of the country.
Exactly, and then he puts the big money, and the players come. Now again, India has an immense potential. If the league goes on, now it's the first season, it's only a 2-month league, but if this happens again and again, then obviously the crowd will come, the local talents will rise, right. They will want to join, and the Indian football will rise. There's no reason in the world why a country like India is only 158th in the world. This is a country with potential. 156. This is a country that
I listened to the report. Yes. Okay.
I missed by 2.
No, you were looking at
miscalculated.
You miscalculated. And when it comes to India trying to push itself forward, cricket though, no, it's interesting to me that you say that, because when it comes to sports, it's not much other than cricket in India.
Exactly.
Is it?
Cricket is huge. We should give them that. Yeah. But India, all in the 116 years of Olympic history, Summer Olympics, they have won 26 medals. Only 26 medals. Yeah. The United States wins 101 Olympics. Yeah. India, such a huge country, has only 26 Olympic medals. It's unthinkable. And someone thinks now that it's time to change that. It begins with football. We'll see if it catches up with other sports.
I meant to that. Next, we'll see the next World Cup in India.
Don't be surprised.
Don't be surprised.
Don't be surprised. If there's money, the potential is there. If there's money, when it comes to FIFA, if there's money, they'll take it.
They'll go where
if they took it to Qatar, they'll take it anywhere.
Unbelievable. Okay, what else?
Spain, Spanish football. Real Madrid beat Levante 5-0 this weekend. Barcelona beat Eibar 3-0. Why is it all very interesting? It's always interesting. But Real Madrid and Barcelona face each other this coming Saturday at the Bernabeu, what's called the Spanish Clásico. Barcelona, believe it or not, they have played 8 games so far, scored 22 goals. How many have they conceded? Not even one. Not even one. They're obviously the best defense in Spain and in Europe. They'll meet the best offense, because Real Madrid in 8 games scored 30 goals. Almost 4 per game. Almost 4 per game. Unthinkable. So this 5-0.
So they don't stand a chance, basically.
But on the other hand, they face a team which has not conceded a goal so far. So this clash is going to be. It's always interesting.
The Titans.
It's going to be extremely interesting this time. Luis Suarez, remember the biting guy from the World Cup, who beat the guy from Uruguay. Of course, we speak about Luis Suarez all the time. He's back. He's back. He's coming back finally after a 3-month suspension for biting another player. Yes, he did that.
It's the biting guy.
Yes.
I love the vampire.
I shouldn't have said Suarez. I should have said the guy that bites.
The bites. You should have said the vampire. Him. That one.
The guy
they let him back?
They let him back after 3 months. When is he coming back to the biggest game there is in world football against Real Madrid? Very interesting.
I should say, isn't he like bat bleep crazy? But okay.
He is Yes,
Yes, he's
crazy,
insane.
whatever. As long as he scores the goal for his team, the
Then
fans will
nobody
love
cares.
him. The
Sedated
others.
after. He'll just score the goal. And
Sports fans are the
He'll
people
make
with the
sure.
shortest memory ever.
Clearly,
Ever.
clearly, as we all should be. But I have to say, it's
We all-
amazing that it's amazing that he's back in the game. But clearly, something to watch. And Jonathan, you stay with us here because now to the big news. We should have opened our show with. Hold on, it's Ronnie Stav, and you are starting off with zombies.
yeah, I
Okay.
mean, from vampires or a type of.
Almost.
I mean,
Almost the
soccer
same,
vampires.
exactly.
Almost
the same.
Just the
Yeah.
same, but just a little bit different.
And for your morning dose of zombies,
Absolutely.
Ronnie Stav. Yes, go for it.
So, Laurie Holden, who's one of the stars of The Walking Dead.
That's a huge show. In
That's
the States, right?
yeah, absolutely a
I
huge
tried
show.
to. Did you try to watch that at all, Jonathan?
Of course, every time. Is it about zombies?
Every time.
Are there
every
football
time.
players
Are
biting
there
in the
football-
show?
No, not really. Yeah, it's one
Fight
of
the
those
dead.
new niche that are happening
I know.
from
Yeah,
vampires to zombies
To
to
zombies, I know. What's
whatever's
else?
gonna come next. I
knows?
don't know.
Yeah, body
no one
snatchers,
knows.
that kind of
Something will
stuff.
happen.
Yeah, okay.
But
So Walking Dead.
she is actually has been a part of an operation in real life that is more crazy than any TV series or movie film that you can ever, more ambitious and more crazy than
Which
you
is?
can ever think of. She was a part of a sting operation to fight sex traffickers in Colombia and take down Marcus Brunschilde, who's a notorious sex trafficker in Colombia.
Sounds like a movie.
Listen, it's not even okay. So the team.
How can she be part of a sting operation?
Let me.
Okay.
There's a
Yeah,
couple more
just go ahead.
things. I was reading it. I was like, there's no way. But the operation is called Underground Railroad, and it's a creation of a former CIA and Homeland Security agent Tim Ballard.
Right.
And just to say, Scandal's same role as Jack Ballard. I was like. What is going on?
here?
Yeah,
And she's an actress. Why would they use
someone
an
was having
actress?
too much fun with this.
Yeah.
The group consisted on 2 CrossFit instructors, 1 salesman, door-to-door salesman,
Right.
Ballard and Holden, that has played Andrea in Slayer Zombies and is now
Nice, yeah. On
fighting
occasion,
sex
yeah, on
traffickers.
occasion, yeah.
Occasionally,
She's an actress.
Yeah,
Yeah,
occasionally.
okay, yes.
And the mission was profiled in Nightline and will be the subject of an upcoming documentary called The Abolitionists. Sorry, and they helped liberate 55 sex slaves, actually, in this operation. They created it into a birthday party in order for him to bring all the
really
girls.
quickly, does it say anywhere in this why she joined this operation, how she joined this operation, and why in God's name they're using actresses?
No. In a post-Sting interview, she was saying that what makes me sad is that yes, we got 4 traffickers, and I hope they fry. But what makes me sad is that so many of these little girls, they don't know any different.
Completely. A very, 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 very good cause. I'm just wondering, when you open the door to a known actress, wouldn't you go, aren't you that one from, well, I don't know.
It was, they created this thing into a birthday party. She was in charge of the girls, so maybe part of the fact that she is famous.
Worked in the
doing
sting
other
operation. So
things
nowadays you
is-
can be an actor and a CIA agent.
Absolutely.
How comfortable.
And,
really quickly, one
and-
last one because I love this one. This is
Okay.
American Horror. Yes, please.
Yes. Clowns of America International.
Lovely.
That is a real club of amateur clowns and professional clowns. Have something to say about the new America Horror Story.
Jonathan Regev, do you watch American Horror Story?
Of course. It's my favorite
he's
show.
watching everything.
There are clowns, right?
There are clowns.
There are clowns in
Not
it.
only that there are clowns, so this club is against the American Horror Story, saying that they're perpetuating an evil clown stereotype.
Okay, first of all, clowns are creepy.
Clowns are creepy. Clowns are
really
evil.
Creepy. They're really creepy.
Absolutely, I completely agree. It's completely crazy.
I've seen the first episode of American Horror Story, the new one. Don't ask me why. I'm up in all hours. It's whatever's on.
We'll talk about it.
Exactly. And I watched the first episode, and of this season of American Horror Story. I can see the point of the clown organization in America, because the clown there it gives a really bad name. Other than that, that whole show is so bizarre.
So bizarre. And you know what you just mentioned, Ryan Murphy, the creator, was saying that he thinks that Twisty the clown might be too much for TV. He even said that. So looks like they do have a point.
You know, they have some killing scenes in there. I kid you not, where
the whole slaring.
It's like, and blood is oozing from everywhere. And the clown has. It's just, I mean. If any kid, it's a little bit too much for adults in their 40s. It's a bit too much.
It's a bit too much.
Yes, even for Jonathan Reagan, who watches it diligently.
Who's in his 20s?
Yes.
Why are you
laughing?
One.
Blonde and 20.
Yes. Really quickly, anything else?
Yes, absolutely. Ezra Miller is going to be the first LGBT actor to play a superhero in a franchise blockbuster movie.
About?
He is going to be, I will tell you who he is going to be. That is going to take me a moment to remember who is he.
He is the openly gay actor to play a superhero. I'm all for it.
Yes,
He's going to have a pink cape.
He's gonna be Flash. He's gonna be Flash. I'm so sorry. I'm horrible with superheroes. But he's gonna be the Flash. Yes.
He's the Flash. Let's go with it. The Flash, the Rainbow Flash. Okay, that is it for us, folks. Don't forget to join us tomorrow morning, I-24 News Morning Edition. Check us out on the web, Facebook, Twitter, anything and everywhere. I-24 News Morning Edition, the way to start your day every single day, because you're watching. Thank you.